New allegations of Kevin Costner emerged from the set, as well as the new cast from Harry Potter released. We'll talk about all that and all the politics of the day. You're live with the guy every day at noon Central. I got my producer, Nat.
Hello.
That's Nat. Okay, let's get into it. I'll bury the lead story a little bit with Costner because it's a little bit seedy, and I got throttled yesterday for talking about a story that was maybe a little bit too dramatic for YouTube in the beginning of the stream. Let's go into the Harry Potter cast. It's been revealed. This is a picture of the 3 cast members. I'm not sure. I definitely don't like them as much as the original movie cast, but let's read a little bit about this and then we'll give my thoughts and opinions as well as yours.
So Harry Potter HBO series casts Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Dominic McLaughlin will play the role of Harry Potter, Arabella Stanton is Hermione Granger, and Alistair Stout is Ron Weasley. More than 30,000 actors auditioned for lead roles since HBO launched an open casting call last fall. Filming is expected to begin this summer.
Okay, and I like the fact that they did cast a redhead. A redhead is always a good casting because they're easily identifiable to the cast. You can see the main character and the kid with the red hair right there. If they both had the same color hair, the audience may get confused. You want them to...
Ron is iconic. You never watched Harry Potter, so you don't really know, but it had to be a redhead.
Yeah.
It goes with a storyline.
That's what you would say as well, but Disney and these
HBO.
And these other major studios, as I was about to say, have been race swapping, color hair swapping, all kinds of different things. I wouldn't have been surprised if he had different color hair.
They did race swap Snape, but I think they got scared with the kids. They had to be pretty much spot on for the original cast and the description in the books.
Well, if the woke era was still in, I think they could have hair swapped the redheaded for a blue-haired kid.
Blue-haired.
It would have gave homage to the woke.
And I mean, Arabella Stanton playing Hermione. Hermione was race swapped during Cursed Child, which was that play they did that was like going outside of the original story and written by someone not J.K. Rowling. But here, I mean, she seems okay. She does musical theater. I won't get too into like minute details, but they look cute. They look a little bit older than the other ones looked when they were younger, even though they're close to the same ages as when Daniel Radcliffe and the rest were cast. Maybe it's because of all the hormones that kids have been subjected to lately.
Also, I would have thought they would have gone for some people that looked really young so they could have aged with the series if the series does actually catch on, because this is a huge investment for HBO. This is a very big property. So you don't want these kids to age out too early on. Between seasons and things, they're definitely going to be growing and things like that. But we'll have to watch. I'll watch the beginning of the series just to see how it is. I wasn't a big Harry Potter fan. You are.
We should rewatch all the movies.
You keep trying to get.
Well, you should watch them for the first time. We should rewatch them all.
You absolutely love Harry Potter.
Yes, I'll admit that.
And I think you're going to be talking about the cast tonight, right?
Probably.
In depth. Nat has her own show at 8 p.m. Central Time on our other channel called Nat and the Guy Espanol. So if you want to see an in-depth review of these casts, she knows a lot more than I do.
In Spanish, and then in English, we'll probably speak about it as well.
Yeah.
At 9 p.m.
Last night, you did a huge expose on
Pedro
Pascal. Wow, I thought you were Candace Owens for a minute.
No.
Okay, let's go into the next article, and that's the Tom Cruise article. Tom Cruise rejoices off Mission Impossible.
Yes, Tom Cruise rejoices over Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning box office record. Amid speculation, the franchise is over. Thank you, Paramount, for years of unwavering support.
Yeah, and this was actually really good to see because Mission Impossible, although it was a solid movie, I didn't personally like it too much. I like Lilo and Stitch a lot more. Lilo and Stitch actually much overshadowed this movie. I mean, it blew it out of the water, but Tom Cruise is still happy this had a strong showing at the box office compared to other Mission Impossible movies. I thought maybe he wouldn't say anything and he would be a little bit disappointed because, I mean, Lilo and Stitch almost doubled its numbers, but he's happy with the solid performance and I'm happy for him. So it's good to see that he's thanking Paramount for all the years they worked together. I'm sure they'll work in the future. I mean, Paramount really stuck next to him with this Mission Impossible series during the Jibby Jab era and everything like that. When other studios wouldn't film, they took a risk. Tom Cruise, they had those recordings of him while he was on set. There was a lot of pressure. A lot of things came out about Tom Cruise on how he had to make a lot of promises and put his name on the line to get that film made during that Jibby Jab era.
That's what a man does. And I mean, also, yes, aside from his stupid religions and stuff that he's not talked about as much lately, for Paramount also to let him kind of jump off buildings and cliffs and jump on planes and do it himself. Usually they don't let the main cast do that because it becomes very expensive to try to insure them and then wait for them if anything breaks.
Yeah, and I know Mission Impossible is already approved. I'm not sure if it was done filming yet, but I know that's the next big venture from Tom Cruise. I wonder if that's Paramount as well. I'll check it for tonight's show, and then we'll talk about it a little bit.
Okay, and I think also like he has to be happy with the box office because he knows that it's 3 hours. He knows it's the last one. He knows he's older. I'm guessing he's just happy that people still cared enough to give him those numbers nowadays.
Well, and international box office isn't really in yet, and it's only been out for 1 week. So this next week will really determine Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible has a really big opportunity here at international box office. We talked about the South Korean box office, how Mission Impossible really overshadowed Lilo and Stitch, and it was the big movie in South Korea for 2 weeks straight. So that was pretty interesting. And he did do a huge worldwide tour, and he really knows how to promote a movie on an international basis. And this is kind of why you can justify his salary and things like that. He goes above and beyond when he films a movie, not only the stunts, but the promotional work he puts in to do the movie. And when he's on set, he is 100% present. He's going above and beyond just acting. So...
And he also remembers, and he still seems like what a traditional movie star used to be like. And thanks his fans, and doesn't try to go into politics, doesn't try to be alarmist when he's promoting a film.
Yeah.
A lot of new actors could learn from him.
Well, and yesterday we were talking about the Indy 500. It had the highest ratings ever. And I brought up Days of Thunder, which was Tom Cruise back in the late 80s, early 90s, I would think, maybe the 90s. But that was a great movie. It was really the Top Gun of racing movies, and it really had that classic American like action movie feel. F1 with Brad Pitt's coming out pretty soon, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. The trailer did look rather good, but Tom Cruise has just been a absolute staple of Hollywood, and Hollywood is having a real trouble replacing or making the new stars. They're just not what they were in the last generation or the generation before that.
And with male stars, they're looking for this new brand of non-toxic masculinity, which is ridiculous and doesn't resonate with actual men.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that we're going away from progressivism in movies and we're going much more mainstream. So there's really a chance for studios to build stars. The issue is Hollywood is wanting to sign the likeness rights and the AI rights of these new stars with these new contracts. So they're going to be willing to invest much more into building stars if they can get the rights to their likeness in perpetuity and things like this.
But they can't find them.
Yeah, that's the problem. They're going to try to build them. They're going to try to manufacture them. They've always kind of manufactured stars, but they've had a real failure as of late. I think they think the movie's bigger than the actual person that's in it. But typically it's the opposite way around. It's the star that drives people to the movie. They got into this era of Marvel and all these comic book movies where they thought the superhero would drive the movie, where it was really the actor behind the superhero. This is why the first generation of these Marvel movies were so good and so spectacular, and people really went out to them.
Rafa says, hello, Rafa, and he asks, should I go watch Mission Impossible? Because we have different opinions.
Nat would say go see it. I would say I'll wait for it on streaming. What do you say?
It is very long, and if you drink a lot of water throughout it, you're going to have to go to the washroom quite a few times. I think if you watched other ones, I mean, I didn't watch all of them, but I remembered the one in, I don't even remember the name. I think it's something Gross Protocol. And then the latest one I also watched. But I mean, with that, I liked it, and I just again admired that it felt like a movie from back in the 90s, and that's what Guy didn't like.
Also, I would say if you're going to go, lower your expectations. I went in with fairly high expectations. The first hour is extremely slow. I'm not the only person that noticed that. That was my first opinion. I thought it was about an hour and a half. I could have been wrong on my time estimate. But once the first big stunt came in, which was an underwater stunt, that's when the movie started to coalesce, and I was drawn into it a little bit. But it seemed very scripted, very dialogued, but I guess that's what Mission Impossible movies are. Mm-hmm. I still want to see Sinners. I know you don't want to see it, but I watched the behind the scenes of Sinners, and what they did to make this super wide vision. They combined different films. They used different technologies. I was kind of wondering how Sinners got that $90 million budget. And now I understand they were trying kind of new groundbreaking things with the way that in which they filmed that movie. So I would probably recommend Sinners, but I also haven't seen Sinners, but it is not having a drop off at the box office. And it's really starting to become like this cult classic, much like From Dusk Till Dawn did with Quentin Tarantino and a lot in Tarantino's first movies. I know that's not directed by Tarantino, but it feels like it could get that cult following once it goes into streaming and home movie and stuff like that.
And Rafa also says that he misses 90-minute movies. And yes, now they bloat the time to keep people in seats, but also to make it more palatable to people watching it on streaming, because they can pause it and it becomes more like a series.
Yeah.
So instead of making movies and series be separate, they're trying to make movies into these very elaborate series almost, condensed into 3 hours instead of what a movie is, distinctly away from what a TV show or series.
Much more than 3 hours. I'm sorry to say, what you're saying there has a lot of relevance. I think you forgot the story that I was talking about, them going forward with this Beatles trilogy movie. So they're going to make the plan is for them to make a movie of each individual Beatles member and to release them all in theaters at the exact same time. So it would be like an episodic series that you would have to buy a different ticket and go a different day for. So that would be the first series that would be released in theaters, which I'm not necessarily a big fan of.
And I don't know yes, there's still Beatles fans that probably would go watch it all, but I don't know how many younger kids would be interested, aside from some of the actors being more...
I think with John Lennon, you can make an individual movie, and the Beatles band on its own. I think you should have stuck to those two properties, but to go for each one, they're really thinking they're going to use the movie theater like a streaming service. And they're probably thinking long term, once it goes on streaming, even if it doesn't work in theaters, it will get big numbers there. But you have a good chance for burnout and things like that before it even hits streaming.
And also, they met almost when they were pretty young. They met when they were kids, so their stories don't differ that much unless they're going into the older years. But then with the older years, they cast a bunch of young actors. So what are they going to do?
Yeah, there was some conflict and stuff amongst the band, but
that was later on.
The music will be phenomenal for that. And I know Michael Jackson used to own the rights to all the original recordings for that. I don't know if his family sold that off after because they were in financial trouble. But Michael Jackson actually made more off of the Beatles catalog, which he bought at auction, than he did off his own music. And he made a ton of money off his own music as well. Okay, I'll go into one more story before we go into the Costner thing. I don't want to tap on the third rail quite yet with the YouTube censors. But we're going to go into the Karate Kid. I got 2 articles about the Karate Kid. It's not looking so good for the Karate Kid, and that's a shame because I really do like Jackie Chan, and he was from my era and the era just before me as well, but he really hit his prime when I was young, and he did all of his own stunts. And he made sure everybody kind of knew that, and then he trained his own individual stunt team, and it was all about the stunts, and he was really Tom Cruise before he was Tom Cruise. I guess he was the Chinese Tom Cruise. Why don't you read a little bit about this first article, and then we'll go into it.
So Karate Kid Legends will provide kick to summer box office, but won't KO Lilo and Stitch's 60 million second weekend preview. Apparently, well, this is just... Do you want me to go into the numbers? Or?
Yeah, go a little. These are predictive numbers. It's not out yet, I don't believe.
No. So the big new event film going this frame is Sony Karate Kid Legends, which was made for a thrifty net 45 million. So they spent 45 million making it.
That's cheap for a movie as well.
Yep.
And Sinners was 90 million. So just so you have an estimate, and 90 million is considered mid-range.
It's expected to do 25 to 30 million at 3,600 locations, including a share of PLF screens, so the big ones. And even though it's impossible for Ralph Macchio's Danielson and Chan's Mr. Han to kick Disney's Lilo and Stitch to the mat, that's a great second or third place haul for exhibitors this weekend. And it's also interesting going back to the Mission Impossible numbers as well.
Okay, I'm going to be very interested in The Karate Kid because this had the opportunity to be a really big movie. They should have probably invested a little bit more money in this. And the reason I said this is because I believe The Karate Kid, they made the original new Netflix series and YouTube series that Netflix picked up because it was so popular on YouTube that it garnered major worldwide attention, and it has a built-in audience right now, but the reviews are coming back of this and it's really bad. So the fact that they were able to build this kind of fan base out of nowhere, a modern fan base, then they had the traditional Karate Kid fan base. This was the time to capitalize, and putting Jackie Chan in there was a great idea. Taking Will Smith's son out of there, which he was in the last one, was a good idea. They even put Ralph Macchio, which was in the original Karate Kid, and now has a fan base from the series. So bad, and everything was done right. They did a good marketing campaign because I was aware of this. This was coming out. I seen billboards. I seen trailers. So they did everything right, but the reviews are coming back and it's not good, and they have big competition with Lilo and Stitch. So this is going to be telling what happens with this movie, and I got a feeling it's also non-political, which would have worked in its favor if it did its job and just made a good movie. The next article we're going to go in actually is a review of the movie, I guess.
And I think they did one thing well, which was wait at least 30 to 40 years before they try to redo a sequel.
No, they've done mini sequels for The Karate Kid.
But not in this context of a lot of people knowing about it. I didn't know about it until new stuff comes.
Yeah, I followed The Karate Kid because it was one of the big movies when I grew up. They did multiple sequels for The Karate Kid. Then they did the female Karate Kid. Then they did the black Karate Kid with Will Smith's son. And now they've done this Karate Kid. They did a couple Karate Kids now with Jackie Chan. A lot of people just don't know because they weren't able to garner a lot of publicity with these Karate Kid movies. But because of the YouTube series, which eventually became the Netflix series, it has major modern base and a major modern base of support. This could have been the revitalization of this series because although they did release all those sequels, they didn't garner a lot of attention. This could have been a reset for the series. I have a feeling they may have failed at it. Let's read about the review here real quick.
And Rafa says, I joined YouTube Red, now Premium. Oh, the days of YouTube Red. I remember that.
What's YouTube Red?
It was what they used to call Premium before, just because of Cobra Kai.
Well, I'm seeing a lot of Cobra Kai shirts all around Mexico City and a lot of shirts with the TV series as well. So I know even in Mexico, the States and Canada, the series was just what I was kind of saying about Sinners. It was a cult. It's kind of become this cult classic, this modern day cult classic. And it's a shame if they're going to mess it up here.
So Karate Kid Legends review Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio in a sequel, old-fashioned enough to be likable retro corn. Ben Wang is lithe and captivating as the ain't that a kick in the head hero who moves from Beijing to New York and winds up with two training gurus.
And I really hope that the reviews are wrong. It's not just this review. I checked out a lot of reviews because I kind of had high hopes for this. I like Jackie Chan. I think they did everything right. Let's just hope they do get it right. And I think this will be really big maybe when it comes onto streaming. It just has too big of competition with Lilo and Stitch. I almost expect Lilo and Stitch to have very little fall off for the second week. I mean, it has a lot of rewatchability and things like that. And the marketing budget of Lilo and Stitch was just so huge. I remember when we went to the theaters to watch it, every single coming soon poster was Lilo and Stitch. There was 30 of them, and it just doesn't leave any room for the Karate Kid right now.
Yes. I think your audio is cutting in and out, but it might just be me, my headphone. So I'm not sure.
Okay, let's just hope, because I did redo all the wiring last night.
Yes, that's why we started a bit later.
If the audience is watching live and I have any audio issues, please let me know. I did a complete 3-hour rewiring of the set last night. So, what do you think about Jackie Chan? You're from a different generation than I am, so.
Yeah, I wasn't that big. At least I'm a girl. So I was never really.
And then what do you know from, was that Rush Hour with Chris Tucker?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker did a big American movie called Rush Hour. They also had Rush Hour 2. That's where a lot of American audiences knew him from. I knew him from Rumble in the Bronx when I was a kid. That's what was so big. It was actually filmed in Vancouver. He did a bunch of stunts. One of the big stunts, he jumped from a boat to the base of the Lionsgate Bridge, broke his foot, and he couldn't stop filming because they were on a budget. So they built a cast and they painted the cast like a shoe, and he continued to do the rest of the stunts for that movie with a cast on his foot painted like a shoe. Okay, let's go into the headline story, which was Kevin Costner, and see if we can not get throttled here by YouTube.
Well, I mean, if audio is cutting in and out, then I guess.
Did they say it was cutting in and out now?
I asked. They haven't said anything.
Okay.
So stunt performer sues Kevin Costner and Horizon 2 over unscripted R word or bad scene. In a complaint filed Tuesday, Devlin Labella claims that union and contractual rules were breached when she was allegedly subjected to perform an impromptu scene of disgusting violence without an intimacy coordinator.
And this is absolutely outrageous. The reason this, what did I title the thing for today as well?
New allegations?
Yeah, new allegations. These were outrageous allegations. And the reason these are outrageous allegations is not on the part of the part that she would even file these. And you can see by the way the article is kind of framing this, she is looking for a payout. She's saying contractually they added the scene, it has violence. She's really appealing to this virtual signaling woke era of where if you step out of line on the contract even a little bit and you can put allegation of SA in these headlines against an actor, she's hoping for a quick payoff, and I'm sure her lawyer is as well. Now, I think Costner has been through false allegations before, so I really hope he doesn't pay this girl off, because if he does, other people will come looking. And it's not like he even did anything. They added an extra scene that had violence and an SA scene within it. She agreed to do it on set. I'm sure she was even excited to do it because her character would get more exposure, and her pay probably got bumped up. Now, the issue with this is Kevin Costner, people kind of got it out for him because of Yellowstone, because how he's separated from the series of Yellowstone, how he's becoming kind of a conservative icon. He's filming his own movies, making his own scripts. He's going his own way, much how Mel Gibson did as well with The Passion of the Christ. And now he's having a resurgence. We seen all the audio recordings that came out of about Mel Gibson. They don't have anything on Costner. They're trying to fabricate something out of nothing. And if this does stick and he does make the agreement, they're going to write more articles on him. So it's best that he fights it and then releases a public statement that these are completely false allegations.
And also union-wise, and the fact of, I mean, from you and I having worked in the industry, I kind of know a little bit about this. But contractually and union-wise, because stunt doubles also have a union, it says, I was reading a little bit into it. It says she was expecting to double for one of the film's stars in some basic, fairly boring shots. Instead, she says she was surprised by being subjected to an unscripted, brutal R-word scene without proper notice, consent, or the presence of a contractually mandated intimacy coordinator. If she's claiming it was fully unscripted, because we do know that there are script revisions that happen on set with script writers being on set and also script coordinators being on set.
They were just Tom Cruise was just talking about this on Mission Impossible, how they improv entire stunt scenes that were extremely dangerous. This isn't like that, and it's just an improv scene.
But what I'm saying is, if it was actually written into the script, even though if it was written that same day and maybe she didn't get notice or full notice because she was just a stunt double, I gotta say it that way, then she has no legal weight behind her either, because it was in the script, so it's not unscripted. So it depends on how the people trying to do the defense say it was done, but.
Yeah, and I really like Costner, and I know they're out for a cancellation with him, and they've been for a long time. He is smart, and he is savvy enough to have avoided it, and I think this is much to do about nothing, in my opinion, as long as he doesn't make the payoff. And it's very important that when they're coming out for cancellation, do not apologize, do not give the payoff. This is not even an allegation of this happened offset. There's no witnesses. It's my word versus your word. This is like nitpicking the contract so I can get more money.
And also, it sounds a little bit like a scorned worker, or like she got maybe not fired, but not called back, which happens, especially for people in the background where you're working with a union and it's not super important that you're the star, so you're easily replaceable, because it says, now Labella is suing Costner and the film's production companies for discrimination, harassment, and the creation of a hostile work environment. Moreover, the complaint alleges Labella faced retaliation after she reported the incident by not being called back for subsequent work on the Horizon series and never being hired again by the film's stunt coordinator with whom she had worked previously.
Yeah, and I'm going to expect to see a lot more of this. Hollywood is hurting right now. They're in a reset phase with AI coming, with the downsizing, the studios really going international, the tariffs coming from Trump, things like this. So work in Hollywood is very slim, especially if this was filmed in LA. It's really hurting in LA right now. But
it was
really
filmed in Utah.
But really, it's hurting all over the place. So she might just be desperate for money, to be honest with you. So
that too.
Okay, let's go to the next article here. And that is going to be Robin Williams. And be careful when you read this one.
Yes. Give me 1 second.
Just call that joked.
Robin Williams' Popeye was the most joked up film set, exec recalls. Everyone was stoned. IAC chairman Barry Diller served as CEO of Paramount Pictures in the 70s and 80s. I think every single film set was the same way. I don't think people should be surprised about this.
But especially Robin Williams was his franticness. You could see it. And somebody that was a very much physical style like Williams was Chris Farley. And a lot of the same things with Chris Farley, as well as John Belushi and things like this. So comedians in films, especially high energy comedians that do a lot of physical comedy, this is a normal trait with them. I like to see stories coming out like this. It really arcs back to an era before. Not that I necessarily agree with all this stuff myself, but it was the 80s, it was the 90s. So like movie sets are so sterile now, just like what we kind of reported with Kevin Costner a moment ago. Everything has to be in the contract. We can't even have an unscripted scene. You're going to get a lawsuit now. How many lawsuits? If this kind of stuff happened on sets now, imagine how many lawsuits. I actually read a little bit of this article. And back then it was all done, movies were done on film. So they would have to send the dailies back and forth, and they were sending jokes in the joke-filled canisters to set every day to kind of supply all the actors and actresses on set, which was interesting.
But yeah.
There was another movie that I was going to talk about with this that had the same reputation. I can't remember right now.
All of them. Essentially. And I mean, with Robin Williams, we also know he had issues with that. A lot of comedians have issues with that. A lot of people in Hollywood have issues with that. And it becomes an environment where it's acceptable even nowadays. But now I think they're trying to tone it down and make it seem like a bad thing. But back then, I mean, I don't know.
And actually now maybe this is a good opportunity to talk about this. There has been a ton of fake trailers online about a new Popeye. So fans actually do want to see a new Popeye. There's been a fake trailer with Conor McGregor as Popeye. And there's just been fake posters of Popeye. This has been circling around X and YouTube for maybe the past, I'd say 24 months now, quite a long time. There seems to be something emerging there. And a lot of studios, when they see that, will kind of lean into it and test out the market, give questionnaires and things like that. I think there is a market for it. The problem is to find a Popeye would be very hard. As much as I did like Robin Williams in the original Popeye, the original Popeye wasn't very well received. So they do have an opportunity here to make a really good movie with a classic comic book character.
And it is interesting they're bringing this up like now. Like I hadn't heard about the Popeye movie in ages, like ages. So it's interesting that they maybe are testing the waters about
I think so.
People talking about it and the interest people have. I mean, this would be a good thing for example, Chris Hemsworth to go back into be a male role.
I honestly, after
he's big. I'm just thinking of big people.
After seeing the Conor McGregor trailer, because he has the Irish accent, he's got all the sailor tattoos. He's got a joke problem as well. So the character like literally lends itself to him, and he likes to drink. Like he would be perfect for this, and he already has a reputation.
Yes, but people hate him too much.
No, people hate him, but they go watch his movies. All of his movies have been really, really big, especially his last one.
Been in movies?
Oh yeah. They did the Netflix one with it was him and Jake Gyllenhaal. Patrick Swayze did the original one. It was called Roadhouse. So he did the new Roadhouse. It was supposed to be released in theaters. And then they were worried about too much masculinity in theaters. So they pulled it and put it straight to streaming. And it did extremely well. It blew out everything in theaters from its streaming platform. So people, as much as people hate them, they are willing to go watch them. Especially if, say, you like to do jokes and you like to drink and you got that kind of reputation, but your on-screen character has the same reputation, it could actually lend itself to Conor McGregor there. Okay, let's go into, what's the next one you have up? Cholesterol. So this is going to be the first clip we got of the day.
And this is something I talk about all the time too.
I got these new little these are your old headphones I got today. I typically have to take the other headphones from the other set, but these are like soundproof when I put them on. Okay.
Oh, hold on. I need sound for the audience.
And I do quite a few articles about health and stuff like this. So I just like to, if something ever kind of pops up that's interesting about different health issues or climate issues, it's an issue I do like to typically go into. So I thought this was a pretty good video overall.
People had high cholesterol levels. And isn't that funny? It is one of the most consistent themes of longevity research that the longest lived people have higher cholesterol.
Oh.
He looks like an alien. I didn't notice that the first time I watched it. Okay.
And yet we live in a world that hates cholesterol. And the moment cholesterol goes up, we put them on a cholesterol-lowering medication. We could be doing the perfectly wrong thing to help these people live longer.
Sorry, they found that some of the longest living humans had high cholesterol levels.
That's right. That's what the Sweden study found, for example. What were some of the most consistent themes? They had good glucose control and high cholesterol. It is a molecule of life. Mitochondria have to have a cholesterol molecule in them in order to work. All sex hormones are built on cholesterol. It's no surprise if someone takes a cholesterol-lowering medication, their sex hormones go down.
There's good and bad cholesterol, right?
And we were just talking yesterday about how they're putting jibby jabs literally in vegetables now, which was crazy.
Jibby jab technology. No.
Yeah, jibby jab technology. No. But they also put it in animals, and they've been doing it for a long time. The issue with that is the animal's natural system kind of gets a lot of that out. So it's really hard to get a high dose into a human through that. But I'm sure they would love to if they could.
Yes.
Let's continue with this.
Well, that's, as the story goes, yes, and yet I think that's overly simplified, where people will say LDL cholesterol is the bad cholesterol, and yet that gets included in these studies of longevity. So I think the good and bad aspect of it is not entirely fair or accurate. We need LDL. LDL actually helps the body fight infections, so it's also an unsung hero of immunity. Why are we so obsessed with cholesterol? Why not triglycerides, which is another lipid that can be measured that is far more predictive of who's going to have a heart attack or not. Okay.
Okay, so that's pretty good. I always just recommend a nice balanced and healthy diet of like raw foods that are easy to cook and typically eat the same food. So it makes it easy and it makes grocery shopping cheap, because whether you're going to eat out or if you do go grocery shopping, but you don't buy the same things consistently, food prices are extremely high in the modern day.
Yes, although it is good to have a varied diet.
And that's kind of what I said.
I know, but I'm kind of I could go on about this for hours.
I've tried every diet from all meat diets to all carbohydrate diets to vegetarian diets. I tried a lot of different things when I was competing in jiu-jitsu and things just to see how it would affect my body. And just a nice, well-balanced diet is what works best for me.
And I could go, like, I like to do a lot of research into food and the food industry as well. The whole cholesterol thing has a huge history, has to do also with the whole vilification of fats and meat and the stuff that was happening around when people were getting all of these heart and lung conditions and they didn't want to connect the dots with connected to cigarettes. So the industry actually worked with the FDA to do recommendations, et cetera, and that's why we have such poor dietary guidelines, not only in the US, but also all the other countries that follow them, which is Mexico. The UK is a little bit better. Canada, not
Well, I'm a
perfect.
big proponent of meat, so I love to eat meat. And if you don't eat meat, it's just impossible to get that amino acid profile and a lot of the other proteins that are in there. You can kind of replace it, but it's a poor substitute. So when I say well balanced, meat should be a part of that. There's just so much propaganda against meat. It's good to see something like this as well.
But I will give a little bit of propaganda against meat, because the meat you usually buy in grocery stores is riddled with, I mean, they don't feed them the best stuff. They're riddled with jabs and antibiotics and stuff that will also change your profile, hormonal profiles, and just your body in general. You don't want that kind of stuff. I do advocate, I guess, for grass-fed, grass-finished beef is the one that you should be
If you
looking for,
can
but it's
afford
very
it,
expensive. I was going to say.
yeah.
It's very expensive, so I guess just eating meat in general is better, but
I would also say
I don't trust the meat industry.
more importantly than even that is eating a well-balanced local diet. So like I went from Canada to Mexico. My food, even I eat a well-balanced diet now, but it's a little bit different. So I almost every meal is the same or close to it.
Which is not great.
Not good, but I do change it up once a day. So 2 different meals a day. I'll eat steak with mushroom and onions grilled into it. And then I make a big tub of that. And then I have rice, beans, big thing of guacamole, and a big thing of salsa. The guacamole and the salsa fill up maybe half the plate as well. So it's pretty well balanced, but it's very regionally based because avocados are cheap here. They're easy to get in season almost all year round. The ingredients for salsa are also easy to get. Rice and beans are a staple in a Mexican diet, and the beef obviously is as well. So that's what I mean by local regional diet.
Because also expecting, especially fruits and vegetables, to hold up after they've been harvested when they're not ripe enough makes them lose a lot of the nutrients and stuff, aside from all the pesticides, all the stuff they spray on them.
That's the thing in Canada now. You got me to another issue here, and I'm running out of time. So I was watching a web series about how they're trying to preserve fruits and vegetables longer for cold weather environments, and they're putting this invisible skin that they're able to spray on vegetables that create a coating so they won't go bad for months at a time,
I forgot the name of that. but
which is
yes,
crazy.
It's more technologies are developing. And Rafa says no eyebrows. And I will say, like, maybe this.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
I was going to say that maybe this poor man is going through some kind of treatment or has alopecia. So.
He looks like he has alopecia, actually.
Yes.
But that being said, I was wondering why he looked weird. And now that he said no eyebrows, that was the reason.
Yes.
There's a lot of no eyebrows people lately.
Yes, but I think with him it might be a condition.
I think so as well.
But
And of all the no eyebrows people I've seen, he probably wears it the best so far.
Rafa also says audio is good, so it was my headphones.
Oh,
Thank you for letting us
fantastic.
know.
I always worry about the audio because the next day nobody will watch it with bad audio.
Yes.
Okay, let's go into Tommy Robinson. And I can't remember if we talked about this yesterday or not.
No. There was no time.
Okay, why don't we... just in case people that don't know who Tommy Robinson is, he was locked up for 180 days. He's a UK journalist, somewhat of an activist. He's talked about migration and things like that. He's been against it. He's been against the grape gangs in the UK before anybody knew what that was. He's been talking about these issues for probably about 15 years now. And people called him a conspiracy theorist. They called him a racist. They called him every name in the book. And they had the whole country believe in it because the mainstream media picked up on it. And then they tried to prosecute him when he put out a documentary that did nothing but tell the truth. The UK government knew he told the truth. The court system knew he told the truth. He had over a dozen witnesses. When he brought them into court, the judge said they're all lying and sentenced them to jail. He's now served the longest time in jail for any journalist. He was in solitary confinement for most of that time. He's now been released. The fact that he's released is not necessarily a happy moment because they're coming up with these new crimes, these new hate speech crimes. What was the crime that we talked about the other day? Anxiety-inducing speech, which is crazy. And
like, I hope my speech induces everybody anxiety.
My speech induces my own anxiety. Like
that too.
Well, they're going to use that in court one day against me. They're going to clip that.
Well, I believe in it. Anxiety sometimes, but I don't believe most people that say they have anxiety actually have a condition. They're just having a feeling. Same with depression, same with a lot of these new conditions that they've labeled just normal human emotions.
Well,
nobody knows what emotion is anymore.
Yeah, anxiety, depression, sadness, happiness, these are good emotions. You need to learn to deal with them.
It's normal.
It's normal, and kids don't know how to deal with them because they're so coddled in the school environment, in the home environment, in every environment nowadays. The way we're building modern human beings, they don't even know how to deal with the adversity of their own emotions. They're victims of their own mind.
And the industry needs them consuming SSRIs and other stuff to manage all of these new emotions that apparently are so weird. But if you get nervous before public speaking, that's normal. It's not anxiety. Everybody gets that. And now kids think that that's like a special thing that they have to tell everybody about. No, it's normal.
If you tell yourself you get anxiety on public speaking, you're always going to avoid it. You're never going to do it. You're never going to get better. What we used to tell people is that's normal. You get better at it. You need to practice it. I used to hate being on camera. I've told the story quite a few times, but
yeah.
When we first decided to kind of stand up against the government, go to the border for the Freedom Convoy in Canada, which on our other channel, that's our first videos, was us going to protests at the Freedom Convoy. We decided to go, we decided to film it, but we were too nervous to talk on camera. So we did a voiceover. That voiceover, I must have re-recorded 20 times, 30 times. And then I was like, no, let's just not do this. I finally did it. Eventually we got the courage to be on camera. Now you see me today. Not that I'm great, but man, I'm literally 1,000 times better than I was when I started this. And yeah.
And that's the thing. Kids are not, and people in general, millennials as well, are never told to just go for it, just do it, just practice, just improve, get better. No, everything has an excuse, and most of those excuses are around mental health, which is just mental illness or laziness and just not wanting to improve yourself because it's too difficult.
Yeah, you've
never had to.
You don't get a participation trophy for just participating. You need to tell kids when they fail, they failed, so they understand the difference between failure and success. This is why I like YouTube, because so far we're not successful, but we are getting better, and it's honest. Like our videos that used to have no subscribers, now we at least get some. We've put a lot of effort into getting better. Every day we get better. So hopefully one day we will be successful.
And there is other stuff we could be doing, but because it's just you and I, like posting also on a bunch of other social media sites like Instagram and X, eventually we will, but because it's just you and I doing everything and learning everything and going through all the, troubles and failures and accepting them and moving on.
Yeah.
It takes a bit more time.
And the most important part to, I would say, YouTube is the speaking part. Yes. It is hard, and there's so many different variations of it. There's the talking head variation. There's the scripted talking head variation. There's the instant news. So you have to kind of know a broad spectrum of things and be able to recall it. I have a super bad memory, so
That's why I'm not correcting him. I'm kind of reminding him of things.
That's also why it's super.
That's why I'm here.
It's super helpful to have you talk on the mic because it gives me a second to think and recall things. I'm also really slow on a computer, so I can't bring things up in real time.
That's why I'm here.
And then trying to talk in public, like we went out to a few protests. I'll videotape you. Having somebody watch you directly right there is really intimidating.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to go do walk and talks in the park and talk about some political issues and things like that. That's extremely nerve wracking because I'm so used to being in my house with just you watching me. And whoever.
And in Mexico, it's also a bit more dangerous.
Not if you go to nicer areas, though. It should be all right. Okay, let's go into. We'll go into the last story.
Yeah,
here.
we never even played the clip from Tommy Robinson.
Oh, we didn't. Oh, yeah. Okay, I forgot we were talking about Robinson there.
And Rafa says, I don't even know what anxiety is. Most people shouldn't.
No.
It's just a normal emotion to get nervous.
Well, I do.
Being nervous.
I do, and I'm usually very, maybe in other
No, I don't
aspects.
even think it's anxiety with you.
Well, but with me, doing jujitsu, doing combat training in different sorts, or even any kind of athletics, makes people deal with anxiety at an extremely young age, very confrontational type of anxiety. So this is why I'm a big proponent of sports, but not giving participation trophies in those sports.
But even,
let people cry when they lose. So
then it's the changing of language. That's not anxiety, that's being nervous. Anxiety is an actual mental condition where you are paralyzed and can't do anything and have physical effects for a long period of time. For more than 6 months, it happens every day. I don't think most people
you can have
that.
Extreme acute anxiety. So when you're about to get in a real fight, somebody pulls a knife on you or a gun,
But
and
that's
you have
not
to take
anxiety.
it. That is anxiety.
That's not anxiety in the psychological term. That's not anxiety. In the diagnosable term,
I was pretty anxious.
but that's not anxiety. That's a different thing.
Let's go back to the story.
That's normal.
Okay, so I'm really glad Tommy Robinson is out of jail. I think if he ever runs for politics, he will definitely be able to win. He's garnered the blue collar support, and I'm flabbergasted on how the UK government is treating him because the UK government has now flipped most of its views and it agrees with them, but they have this hatred over the past 15 years where he's been calling them out. He's been in the wrong, or he's been in the right. They've been in the wrong. They look at him as the epitome of what the far right is.
Well, they wanted to make him into because he's highlighting everything wrong they've done.
But he's really just a moderate.
Yes, he's a moderate, but he's highlighting everything they're doing wrong. So.
And they have a full-length interview on Rebel News right now. Rebel News flew over there, stayed for a week, waited for him to get out of jail, and they did a pretty good interview. I've been able to watch about half of it before I went on today. I highly recommend going to Rebel News, and Tommy Robinson interview should be on there on YouTube. And let's watch this clip that I did pull. I can't remember which clip I pulled for him today because there was quite a few.
Yeah, so this was from Benny Johnson. I think this is him just getting out.
You've been incarcerated in this horrible
He looks very
place
different.
Pause it.
since.
Yeah, and he does look very different because he was in solitary confinement. They obviously didn't let him shave or cut his hair or anything like that. 180 days in solitary confinement. I believe that's what it was. Don't quote me on that. But he didn't do this willingly because as soon as he had the Rebel News interview, he's completely clean shaven now. He's got his hair cut. But
I was going to say he looks a lot better like this. I mean, just cut his hair a little bit. I think he looks a lot better with a beard.
That's what Jeremy said as well. He said, keep the beard, Tommy.
Yes, because he has that thing where some men don't have chins, so they use their beards to cover it up. I think he looks better like this.
But he did shave for the Rebel News interview, and he looks skinny. The beard really hid how skinny he was because, he's usually in pretty good shape, but man. Okay, let's play this.
October, can you tell me, first of all, how are you? How are you feeling, boss?
I feel good. Unfortunately, in a country that doesn't believe in free speech, being a citizen journalist, this place is an occupational hazard. It's ridiculous. 16 years ago, when I first started speaking out against Islamic rape gangs that were plaguing this country, from that point on, I faced relentless attacks from the British state, wielding lawfare as a weapon in order to silence me. I have never been convicted by a jury. Every one of my convictions have been handed down to me by judges. The lucky thing with this, everyone got to see the film. I have to say thank you to Elon Musk, because without X, If we didn't have X,
Pause it.
everyone.
Yeah, so he made a full-length documentary that really exposed all of the grape gangs in the UK with hidden cameras and a bunch of other things. The government got it banned on every site except for Rumble and so RUMBLE, but a lot of people don't actually function that site. Then they press the charges on him. So what they were planning to do was put this guy in jail and have nobody watch his documentary. Elon Musk not only put it out, he promoted it not only through his own X account, but really pushed it on X, and hundreds of millions of people actually got to see it. So this really backfired on the UK. But if they would have quietly put him in jail and the video wouldn't have been online, man, who knows how long they would have put him away for.
Yes.
Would just think I lied. No one would have got any other narrative. Fortunately, I think, 167 million people saw the truth. So that gagging order, these attempts at censorship, to silence, to cancel people, it hasn't worked. You've attempted to lock up the truth, and that truth has been echoed around the entire globe. It couldn't have been any more successful. I knew exactly what I was doing when I released.
Okay. So that's Tommy Robinson. If you don't know who he is, you're going to see a lot of propaganda online. He's been an enemy of the state for the last 15 years. They've been lying about him for a long time. The independent media has reported on him pretty in depth, and you can get the other side of the story with him. I'm a big supporter of Tommy, so check him out if you haven't. He's got a new interview on Rebel News right now. That's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back here tonight at 9:15 Central Time on this channel. And Nat has her own show at 8 Central Time on Nat and the Guy in Espanol. That's a Spanish channel. If you are a Spanish speaker, please like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.
And thank you for being here, Rafa. We'll see you tonight.